there isn't a lot of he had all these things that were kind of linked to Inhale, exhale. Okay. So actually today we worked a lot with the fundamentals, and you know, I know it's things that you probably already know but you don't pay attention to it, or maybe you don't know it and still didn't pay attention to it. So the thing is, you know, the 5 stances really are something developed to help work our stances. It defines the stances, gets people familiar with the stances. But, you know, people still sometimes don't get the leg work working correctly, and unless it's kind of pointed out, or you have some type of drill to develop it, to get a clearer understanding of, you know, what leg work is. You know, in the 5 coordinations, we have the last thing is ma, right? Ma is your stance. Ma bu is footwork. And you know, footwork comes in different forms. You have your static stance, you have shifting of weight, then you have your methods, you know, how to transition in and out of them. So, you know, basically we have this for opening the stance: 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. So this is your horse stance. We all know this. We did it from day 1. And then we learn to shift, and open, right? So once you've established the width of your stance, you know how to transition and go in and out of your stances. Now, because just going like this doesn't really mean you experience exactly what it feels like, because you're still sometimes not shifting through it, right? So you always have to carry your weight over that leg and carry your leg over this leg in order to step. So you have that, you know, like in first form, for instance, when you get to this side and we go like this, 1, 2, you could do this nonchalantly, not even be in the stance, and then go through the motions. Or you can, you know, go from here, shift, and get a good transition. But that takes a lot more control. So, you know, controlling your movements really becomes a factor that we, you know, varies among individuals, because you're dealing with your joints, and if joints don't cooperate or you're not activating it correctly, you're not going to shift correctly. So that's why the mapu sometimes is so different among different people, because we process it differently. So when we're here and we set this up for chunkyo, you know, most of the movements are done on the left side as a chunkyo, and then we have the sliding step. Then we do the punch, then we turn back and do the punch, or the sun punch, or that shows up in fuhak, you know, which is an advanced form, but we have that basic transition in fuhak. You know, and a form really is just like a book of movements. So we learn this movement 1, 2, or 1, 2 as a basic fundamental, you know, day 1, if you were learning it day 1. But we don't pay attention to it because it's basic. We learned it, we know we did it, right? So then you move on, you learn a form, and you don't really look back. You know, you look forward and you get to this point and you have a chunkyo, and you say, oh, it shows up here. Just another move. I already know that. I learned it way back in the beginning. But the only way you can practice this and this is to practice that, right? Specificity of training. So in fuhak we do it, but 2 sets of it, 1 on each side, and maybe some forms we only do 1 punch. So in order to get a good dose of that movement in your form, you'd have to do it 20 times, right? To get it, to do a couple dozen of them. So the thing is, we're not even doing it on the left side, typically, right? So we did it like this: 1, 2, chunkyo, sliding step, 1, 2. Then we turn, sliding step, 1, 2, chunkyo, sliding step, 1, 2. That's your left punch, which you probably never do. So it's not balanced. So really, if fundamentals or for basics, you have to actually do it a few times on each side to, not because it's a work, it's because your body has to acclimate and know what it's actually doing. Because even though you're programming it basically as a message and you're doing it because you kind of know it, your body really doesn't know it, right? So that's why you have to do it enough to realize it. Now, did I do hundreds of those each time? No. I just did it for 60 years, and it so happens that, I was able to get enough of them in there to figure out that this is what we're supposed to do. But for a new person, or anybody that's actually been doing it for a while, should actually understand this before they need 60 years to figure it out. Because who has 60 years to do that? So when we're here, we have that punch and then that punch. And this is something we should probably do before even 5 stances, because by the time we get into 5 stances and the drill, we're already transitioning and practicing a bit too much, because all we're doing now is focusing on sequence. So when we do this 1, 2, that's the first 2 punches, right? The second in the 5 stances, your chun kyo. There's your punch, but we're walking through to the next punch, which is like this. So those 2 are 2 punches on the same side. The first one is actually alternating. So it's a combination of 2 different transitions. So what we're developing is how to transition from one position to the next and understand it. And if we actually, in our training, there's such thing as discovery, and there's such thing as finding out what actually is happening, then you really have to go through it and do it. Because if you do something long enough, you're going to figure out how it should be done. So that's really, it's a slow process, but that's how we learn. Now when we're here, in this position, right, and this is what I was talking about is transitions. So this is your twist stance. And when we go from here to here, what is a twist stance? A twist stance is to get you in a position to set you up for the next position or the next posture. That setup is critical, because if I'm on this side, like in my fakun, and I want to get to the other side to do the right side dragon claw, how do I do that? Do I just step up like this? Which is what a lot of new people do because they don't know how to pivot their feet. So then we do this. So that's a twist stance, but it's not really controlled. So when we go from high to low, we really need to twist to this stance. This is your twist stance, your scissor stance, right? Then we step to horse stance, and then we go to leaning stance. So before we make that big step through and create the hand movements, we have to know how to do this. Then we have to know how to do this. Okay, so this is called Liu Bu. This is called Chop Bu. So those are basic fundamentals into the footwork. But sometimes, when we teach this, it's a combination of, coordination and foot placement. So that's why, back in the old days, people would stand in a horse stance for a period of time, and then they might cross over and practice this stance for a period of time until your legs get accustomed to what they're supposed to be as a posture. When you do a twist stance, this knee should be touching this calf, and there's your position. And then when you step up, there's your offset stance to a leaning stance. And then when you shift and you chop bu. A chop bu, actually, when the knee is bent, it goes in here, and then you twist back to the stance. Pardon me? Yeah, so that's something that's something you have to play around with to find out which is which. Yeah. So when you're going like 1, 2 to be in, yeah. So if it's the ball of foot, then you go to the heel and then the toe. Yeah, yeah. It's eventually more weight on the front leg, because during transition you shift and bring it back. So the weighting gets distributed one at a time, but it's done so that shift, twist, shift. So it's really broken down into 2 shifts of weight. So good footwork, actually, you will carry a weight on one leg, most of the time. During the full transition, you're 100% zero. The idea that there's stances with 70-20, 80-20, 70-30, 90-10, and all that is an estimate. We don't really know what 70-30 is or 80-20, but we know what 0 and 100 is. So 0 and 100 is either on or off, and 0 and 20 is actually what we kind of talk about in Wu style Tai Chi. It's really 0 and 100. So the idea of shifting a weight and carrying a load is really in the legs, right? So when we do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's reversing the stance, changing directions. Every time you twist and step, you're in the opposite stance, right? So there's a forward twist, a forward twist, a forward twist, forward twist, forward twist, stepping back, forward, cross, chapu, 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 is reversing, retreating. The whole purpose of footwork is to advance and retreat. And the only reason why we do that is because if it's being used as a martial art or self-defense, if you can't go towards your target, then you never reach it, because you can't move close enough. Your arm doesn't get longer. You have to take a step. And then retreating allows you to retreat and keep an offensive movement while you're moving. So just stepping, retreating is not enough. You have to switch your hands. So that gives you the idea that it's so important to have that upper-lower coordination. So if we just try that a few times, stepping forward, let's see how consistently your footwork is. So let's do a twist step going forward on both sides and step into a position. And you can have your hands on your hips. 1, go. 2, go. Twist. Twist. And you try to be as light and as agile as possible. And you say, well, my feet are not light or agile. Well, you work toward building it. Then you go backwards. You cross behind and turn. Cross behind and turn. Cross behind and turn. Cross behind and turn. So if you do this, and eventually it gets smoother, it gets more controlled. So we talk about the control factor, and you have, much more awareness of your position, consciousness of that. But at the same time, accuracy of stance. If you're going to twist, there's your stance, and you go forward. When you cross and you turn, is the final position, the position you want to be in as a stance. So that's the consistency of your ma bu. So ma bu is your step. Bu fat is your method, right? A fat is a method. So bu fat. So this is stepping forward and crossing behind. So you cross and turn. Cross and turn. That's called a chapu. You heard chapu before, right? Chapu fumigyak, right? Chapu fumigyak. So this is chop. That's a chop chui. Chapu is the chop. So chapu, your chapu. Boom. Okay. I didn't control that. You weren't there. No, that's a chapu, right? And then the pakbu is this. Pakbu. Chapu fumigya. Chapu fumigya. Fumigya is a tiger's tail. You do that, right? Boom, boom, right? Boom. So that's a chapu. So you know chapu here, but then you chapu is reversing the stance. Yeah, just like a Bruce Lee kick. So, yeah. Where did Bruce Lee learn that kick from? It didn't come from Wing Chun. It actually is a standard side kick. Taekwondo has it. Every style has that type of. It's a hopping side kick, right? So you hop. You still breaking it down is a chop, boo, and a knee up. A hopping kick is what they do. That's a hopping kick, like a jump kick, but it's a step. And you time it so you do the side kick. But that's neither here nor there. What it is it's a method. So we understand that we have chapu, and you're moving forward in both directions. Twist, twist, twist. Chop and twist, chop and twist, twist and step. Yeah, then we have one more step. In the same cross step is what? Xiangbu, right? Stepping up is advance. Xiangbu. Xiangbu. Xiang is a move forward. Yeah. So you have that chapu in your stick form. In your, right? Chapu. And thrust. So that's in your stick form. This is Xiangbu. Right? Chapu. So you have these footwork already, but they only show up in your forms. But you have to be able to distinguish what footwork it is. You have it in all your forms. So just as a understanding at this level, we should know and be able to distinguish and differentiate between the types of footwork. Where you teach it, when you teach it, really would vary based on where you want to introduce it. But if we're teaching form and they don't know this, then it's no wonder that the students' footwork is going to be kind of shabby. It's a combination of the reason, there's some inconsistency in footwork, but it's partially because we don't have like a brand new student and another 2-day student, and then, so they're all kind of mixed, so that's why it's sometimes hard to be consistent in the teaching. But if we only had a class of beginners and that's all you worked on, then you move to the next stage, a class of intermediates, then you move on. It's tough to do that because you'd have one student per hour, and the day would never get by. So what we have to do is when we teach, we have to stay somewhat consistent with the footwork and explain it in different ways. That's kind of how you teach a mixed class. There's a value in all of it to each one of them, but the thing is, one is for helping you improve, the other is the method. How do you do it? And then just work it as a drill, and then people would be able to consistently do it, and at least they know it, they heard it. Because copying form, copying movements, because we learn visually, is always misinterpreted, right? A lot of times. And you say, well, we all look at the same thing, but we all perceive it to be different. And then while we're looking at it, thinking that we're going to do the same thing, not realizing that it's nowhere close, that is just part of the way it is, part of learning. But if you're explained and you explain essentially the method, we all can kind of take the information, and if you're not, in a rush, you kind of let it digest, and eventually, after doing it for several weeks or months, it's going to shape up. So just what we did today, when all of you are veterans, when you do your form, you're going to feel different, because now you at least know and have identified the method. Because without a method, all you're doing is second guessing everything, right? Well, this is what I think it should be. So when we were used to teach Muay Thai, it's just, should we turn out like this? Or should you pull the foot back? Oh, you should pull the foot back only because when we're high and low and our weight is kind of in between the feet, if you don't shift back and twist, you don't control your center. If I go like this and I go like this, I'm really kind of not stable and not in a secure position to make my next step. So if you were using that movement and you go like this, you're going to be knocked over. Because when you go like this, you actually have some control of your position. And it's quicker, because if I'm in this position and I switch, he doesn't even know I move my feet. See? So the thing is, if I'm here and he's worried about me doing that, that's what would happen. 1, 2. Did I step here or kicked here? So the thing is, this thing is very important. Between here and here is how you maneuver from one position to the next. So it seems fast because it's very efficient. So speed and efficiency kind of work together. Sluggishness, off balance, is going to feel sluggish and not very efficient because it's all over the place. So you want your movements to improve, you have to improve the efficiency, but improve it by controlling and understanding what you need to do, right? So if you're here, and your feet actually eventually do a lot of things simultaneously, so it makes it even more efficient. But the thing is, when you're learning it, you have to at least be able to control this and this, right? So, we're talking, at an instructor level here, right? So that we all kind of understand it. And if you run through it, and if you were to teach it in a class, then that's what you would do, is go through it. But make sure when you go through it with the class, and they're going to copy you because they're going to watch it, make sure you do it, efficiently enough so that they don't think that that's not something they want to do. So there is that too. But this just gives you, some insight as to what footwork would help you do. So that's the twist stance. If you twist to pull in, when you open, you have to spread your feet out again. So that happens in Longakun, right? 1, 2. You have to spread your feet. In Gungjikun, when we go like this, our feet are close. When we jump up, they spread out again. So that's what, so that's a variant, right? You close your stance, you jump up, and you go down. Now when you turn, it doesn't widen here before you jump. You're not going to go like this. Go here and then jump from here. You come here to be stable. You jump from here because you have, you're closer to your center to jump. In Fuhawk, sometimes when we're here, we have to spread the feet to do that, right? So those are adjustments that help you create the posture. So a lot of the things that we do really, when you break it down, a lot more is happening than meets the eye. So. You can do both of them equally, like when you spread, you can do that, or when you cross, you would take that step. So if you did this, that's where that sliding step comes in. So that gives you your width. No, he's talking about Logakun. Yeah, he's talking about Logakun. Yeah. So when you did that turn, okay, do that one more time, right? You cross and you turn. Oh, stay there, right? So yeah, turn. No, when you turn, now this comes to when you do your palm. Right? So you're here, then turn and palm, slide. Yeah. At that same time you would palm. Yeah. So in other words, when you do this, we're turning. This hand doesn't stay here, it comes here. Because this, and this are the phases in which the movement becomes effective. Right? So that's sort of maximizes the potential of the structural integrity of your position. Because when I'm turning, I have to, that's my full block. See? Because we don't want to do this and block here, because this is not the block. This is the finishing movement, so that's your torso. So if I turn here, 45, there's the full. Right? It's driving it. Because from here to here to here is the vertical elbow. Right? The vertical elbow has to be here, not here. Because you see the difference. Because this is gravity. I mean, working vertically, right? But with gravity, but here. So the movement actually is 1, 2. So when does your hand square with the body? Is when they're both going to be going together. Because now this is turning, and turning again. So when we turn to here, this is back and forth. So it's really pretty logical of how your body, but you have to understand the body is moving like that, like this, yeah, and you come forward, turn, yeah, so you have a little bit more turning to here, here, yeah, they're all like that, see, yeah, no, see, you didn't here, right, turn here, right, turn here, this and that go together, right, here, right, now the elbow drops. Now when the elbows are both here, right, this is most efficient. If you're like this is dropping, but this is actually going out there, and then it's going to be like that. You see, so it's distorted a little bit. It's not as precise. Yeah. Well, you don't have to even slice, because if you're pressing here, once I'm here, it's just vertical. I don't have to slice. If my hand is coming this way, then I have to slice. See, this is coming like, because this is coming out. This is coming across. So they're slightly different, but so here to here, but we did that already. We're already here. See. So that little bit of timing is what changes the whole outlook on the movement. So the question Peter had was, is it the same in Kungfu? So which one is he talking about? He's talking about this. That's actually the same. That's the one he's talking about, right? But all of those, yeah. So they're all the same. Essentially, they're all the same. So while we're learning 3 different forms, we have the same technique. Because if you learn 3 different forms and you learn 3 different ones of those, there's no wonder you would be confused, right? You'd be confused and you don't know which one is happening when and which form. But it's not like that. You know, they just have that same posture. You know, it's like Tai Chi. If you do brush knee here, and then later on do another brush knee, it's the same brush knee. You know, single whip is the same thing. So that's why when you're new at this, you think you're learning 10 million things, but you're really only learning 2 things, really. Yeah. So that's right. So learning a lot of things is the way we learn. We learn a lot of things, so it reaches complexity. By the time you learn so many things and reaches a stage of complexity, it comes back to simplicity. Right? You have to go full circle. And sometimes not one circle, it has to happen over and over again till it gets to be very easy, simple. But that takes decades. It doesn't happen overnight. So that's the process. Is, like you say, there's no secrets. It's just time, effort, and understanding. Don't just practice blindly. Practice with, a certain kind of mindfulness. Right. And then if you were to scoop, press, kick, it would be the same. So you can see in the first form, there's a lot of footwork in the first form. Let's just do the opening to first form, and you see if that footwork that we just did shows up the way it's supposed to, right? So okay, this is from the salute. Ready? So we're gonna do the first form. Oh yeah, it's okay. So when you did your palm strike, don't have your palm so like this, more like this, more flat. Yeah. So it's not like that. It's a good thing you were doing that. Okay. All right, ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1. 2, high, low. 2, twist. Okay, make sure you get your legs turned, but that means it's your hips. So if you're turning, and then you have to do this, it's the hips. Twist enough. If you twist, and if it's not enough, then do it until you shout. Twist it, twist and shout. when you twist and shout, maybe. Okay, now step up, horse stance, dragon. So you see, okay, next for chun kiao, cross step behind. But make sure you shift your weight and do that. So it's right there. And you scoop and uppercut, right? So when you do your scoop, don't forget the step, uppercut. So then you can see that the transition happens there a lot. Okay. So let's do that movement again, Ari. So we're here, high, low. Okay, chun kiao, scoop, twist, right? Yeah, twist. So look, we're here, chun kiao, scoop. So this and this is still in the center, right? And then we're doing this, step, the leaning stance, remove, step forward, and punch. So what happens with that kind of footwork is just that it's more precise, more accurate. So when we talk about practicing form, accuracy, leads to more from the control leads to better form and timing. Because okay, do it again. Yeah, scoop, just scoop. You can actually, if you break it out, 1, 2, right? Oh no, chun kiao, scoop. Right. So you see, chun kiao, scoop, step. Right. So 1, 2, step, 3, uppercut. So that's really controlling this as a position on my center line. So you can do it broken first. It's whether you maintain it or not. If you go chun kiao and then you lose your position, it's no good. Scoop, it's right here, it's right here. Why does it stay there? Because if you throw a punch, say high block, and you punch one here, punch your next one. If I go like this and I'm still here. But the thing is, I'm going to turn on the next move. But that's sustaining the position. So if I go high, low, right? If I scoop here, if I chun kyo, and I scoop, punch here, I'm here. Right? So I'm here, and I'm here. So I'm just holding that position during my transition, so you have to relax. So it's going to come in, but the thing is, it goes there. So those are the next actions after after you scoop. Scoop. Scoop first. Yeah, and then when this is here, then all you do is turn to this. Yeah, and uppercut, right? Because when I'm here, chun kyo here, I changed this to this, this to this, right? So the interim positions become more important, more critical in your transition, because now you've broken your transition into phases within the total transition. Then, so you have to have structure integrity throughout your movement. So that's, now this is for your understanding as a teacher or as a practitioner. It's not going to happen for a guy that came in, or a kid that came in day one, and you're going to teach them that. They're really only interested in sequence. But you've been doing this a while. We'll go back to the first form, and do we know that this is happening? And you could go through this, say 20 years later, after doing some of the intricate movements, and then you realize, well, this is what's happening in the form. And then you realize that all that stuff is in there. But yet, unless it's brought out, it's kind of overlooked. So that's what, kind of knowledge is, and how insightful you get. It doesn't happen because you read 4,000 books about that one movement, because it doesn't help, because you wouldn't know what the book was talking about. But this, when we talk about it, after so much practice, you can see that it's important to know what it is to transition from one position to the next. And you can see, as simple as a form is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. There I didn't pull back, because when I'm here, I'm in position for that block to press. Because if I did this and I pull back, I would have lost my position. So sometimes, once you understand the transition, once you hook, you have to go right from the press. Right? So if I hook here, I have to press from here and move right in. I can't pull back. So that's where those kind of things have to connect as a technique. So, but you're really moving from one position to the next. Really, there's no real break to the movement. The continuity of the movement has to stay. So just like if my hand is here, if he throws a punch here and I'm going like this, right, it's under here, and I turn, the movement is actually this. This is the interim position till I get to there as a learning. But when you use a movement, it's just there. In between here is just your transition until you intercept. Once you intercept, this becomes an attachment, then your hand goes like that. So that's sort of your space and sensitivity of movement. So that's drilling. All arts have this. It's drilling, chun kyo, dragon claw, palm strikes face, whatever it is. But it doesn't matter what style it is. Essentially, it's the same because it's the same bridge, same appendage. So this, yeah. So what is this? Is sustaining your position. We sustain our positions a lot. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. throughout your transition, you can't let the hands and feet go separate, because you have to imagine when here, the next movement is there, the next movement is here. You have to protect your center, right? Here, because I'm changing directions. I'm here, and then I'm here. I'm here, here, here. All of those are positions that you have to define. That's, I call the manipulation of your skeletal structure. And as you adjust and form and create, it's the balance in motion. So there's a lot of information there, and it's a lot of stuff that's not so easy to understand, but it's something that you house in here, and your body will eventually recognize a lot of this. So, forms and sequences, it's something that we all appreciate and is part of our practice, but we have to step back a little bit just to develop some more understanding and insight, then move ahead again. Take the same form and renew it, review it, do it, review it, and it constantly evolves. That's the amazing thing about this stuff. Why else does someone, but you have to have the interest or the passion to do it. They do it for 100 years if they live that long, right? And even these old masters, they may not even do it. They're just kind of thinking about it, but they've already embodied a lot of this stuff, so they can still see it. Whether they can still do it or not, it's really becomes a physical thing. So on that note, ready? We'll bow. Up. Salute. The softness of Honga, yeah.